enough is a myth.
What is it you pray for?
Hello everyone, the December Review here, back again with a movie review. Today, we have the long-awaited return of the Hellraiser franchise with the 11th film in the series, simply titled Hellraiser. Directed by David Bruckner, produced by Spyglass Media Group and Phantom 4 Films, and currently streaming on Hulu for your viewing pleasure. Does this latest offering of the Lament configuration bring the series back to its chained roots, or will it be suffering decades of torment from its very existence? Spoilers are ahead.
It's time. Greater delights await. We wish to see you proceed. Feed it. Their blood, their pain, all for us.
It's been 4 years since we last had a Hellraiser film, which isn't that long of a wait considering some of the delays that we've had with other notable horror franchises. I already did an in-depth look at the series up until this point in my Hellraiser ranking video, which, depending on your location, can be found on my channel. Being branded as a reboot, the new Hellraiser is not a remake of the original 1987 Clive Barker classic, but a new beginning which contains all of the history the series has spun in its 35 years, while adding a few new concepts to its mythos. As the film opens up, we meet Roland Voigt, owner of a magnificent mansion and in possession of the box. After a reintroduction as to why you should never open this thing, we cut to 6 years later. Enter Riley McKendry, an addict struggling with sobriety, who lives with her brother Matt and has a boyfriend she met at her 12-step meetings named Trevor. Matt isn't too fond of Trevor, and with good reason. He isn't exactly the sobering presence Riley needs at the moment, and that's made abundantly clear as he facilitates a break-in at a local abandoned warehouse, where Riley hopes that she can score a big payday. Well, unfortunately, there isn't a winning lottery ticket at the warehouse, but instead a mysterious box, which Riley takes, hoping it's worth something. And the rest, as they say, is history. There's a whole lot to like in this new Hellraiser. Right off the bat, it's clear that the team behind its production are knowledgeable in its history and go to great lengths to stay true to its foundation. But they also want to take the story a bit further, which in this day and age of reboots and remakes is a bit of a dicey situation. Stay too close to the source material and what's the point? Stray too far away and you risk alienating the fan base. But that's gonna happen to some degree regardless, and thankfully Hellraiser manages to walk a pretty well-conceived line between the two. One of those big changes is, of course, the continued recasting of the main baddie, Pinhead. This is the third film since the legendary Doug Bradley last portrayed the horror icon, and here we have Jamie Clayton stepping in as our now dedicated lead Cenobite. Clayton brings a new dimension to the character, which doesn't just work, but is revolutionary for the series. In previous attempts, it felt more of copying the role than being its own version. Here, Clayton is able to subvert comparison by showcasing a more subtle yet intimidating nature to the film not seen since the earlier films, while managing to make the concept of Pinhead new again. And this is remarkably rare to pull off in films, particularly the horror genre. We all know how the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot went, and Jason has never really been the same since Kane Hodder. And it's helped by a script that plays smart with the role. Much like in the original movie, the idea that Pinhead would be the de facto draw wasn't the vision. It takes some time for the character to be revealed, and unlike later sequels, the other Cenobites were featured as well, making them more of a team. It wasn't until after the film was released that the lead Cenobite became Pinhead, which then opened up the series' doors to the direction that it went into. Here, that original idea is brought back. Yes, the priest or priestess is featured as the lead, but there is plenty of screen time for a host of other notable Cenobites, some of whom get speaking time, and the concept of opening the box and what that brings is much more all-encompassing than just having Pinhead show up. which helps create a much more confident and layered portrayal by Jamie, again not seen since the earlier films. It's a great performance. Also new is the box itself. Sure, in some ways, it kind of looks just like the same old thing, but this puzzle box has been given an upgrade. Think of it as Uber Lament configuration. On paper, the idea sounds a bit sketchy, but within this world it works. The box has 6 levels it must go through, each one representing a different theme. The only way to move on to the next level is by offering the soul of someone. Once complete, the owner of the box can request a gift from the priestess. This is where things can get a bit tricky because you sure don't want any gifts from this dimension. Unaware of its history, Riley, in possession of the box, inadvertently gets her brother taken away after an argument. She then begins to track down its origins, which leads her directly back to Roland Voight and his mansion. She believes if she runs through the box stages, she can request her brother back. Noble, but short-sighted. And it's not long before we get a showdown filled with twists and hooks involving everyone left standing. I wasn't expecting to see such a standalone film. I assumed this would be a reboot more in line with the first film and novel, The Hellbound Heart, but instead it works as both a new starting point and another sequel. It's impossible to recapture the true world the original films created, and this one felt more like part 3 in terms of locations and cinematography, which for me was a welcome surprise considering Hell on Earth is one of my favorites. It also contains a few subtle hints at other films in the series while standing on its own. I'm pretty sure I saw a pillar in there, and there are a few names like Joey and Trevor, which could just be seen as a throwback or a coincidence. And it also has a twist ending, which is a staple for the direct-to-video installments that followed really since part 5. Behind the camera, Bruckner keeps things moving, framing everything well while allowing the set pieces to shine. There are some really cool sequences between our reality and the Hell dimension. And music is a key element for Hellraiser, and composer Ben Lovett dances around the familiar during the 2-hour runtime before unleashing an exhilarating grand finale that any fan will no doubt applaud. It was truly an epic moment. Excellent work. As our lead Riley, Odessa Azion has a rather interestingly complex narrative to pull off. Her inability to stay within the lines resulted in her possession of the box, and thus losing the only stabilizing, if annoyingly protective voice she had around her. There is an understated arc from point A to point B for her, and Odessa did some great work creating one of the best and sympathetic protagonists in the series. For the Cenobites, their look is changed up a bit, while staying true to its adventurous existence. The leather-clad garments have been replaced with a more all-encompassing skin replication that harkens back to Frank's unfinished form in the original. In another well-crafted idea, it's not just our lead who has pins involved in their transformation, but there are pins everywhere here. There is a consistency with its Cenobites that were lost over the years. And yes, one of them is a little chatty. But that's not to say it's all sunshine and hooks for the film. While I enjoyed it, some of the pacing in the first half could have been sped up a bit. And I'm all in favor of letting the plot work itself out by building mystery and tension, but unfortunately the film gets a bit bogged down in some of the "no one believes me" cliches, and a few of the side characters who are trying to help just create more trouble than it's worth. Yes, we don't have a film without them, but some of the decisions fell into trope territory. But none of that is a major issue for me, as the end result is a rather well-made reintroduction to the Hellraiser world, working as a new start while also staying true to its concept and adding in new ideas that worked. Hellraiser 2022 is an excellent addition to the series that would get a high spot on my eventual re-ranking of the franchise. The film hit all of the check marks needed while creating a new starting point where there is more to come. A TV series is currently in the works that is supposedly tied into the franchise, hopefully bringing back this cast. It's not easy to rebrand an established property, but Hellraiser effectively did just that, and in a rather rare moment also recasted a legendary icon with someone who can easily take over the mantle as the official new Pinhead, which is all great news for fans of the series. I give the new Hellraiser on the Leviathan scale 4.5 out of 5 hooks.
What is it you pray for?
If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel for more.